Yeah!
It's Josh Williams here with another bonus episode of the One Man Podcast. I'm very excited, guys. This has been the interview that I would say since I started the podcast I've been looking forward to doing. Today, my guest is a great friend. He's been a good mentor to me in the short amount of time that we've known each other. He was a huge part of just getting the One Man Podcast off of its feet, and we can talk a little bit more about that later. He is a nationally touring headliner, has opened for Bill Burr. He has performed a sold-out Madison Square Garden, and last night he filmed his first special at the Terrytown Music Hall. Graduation part. I'm just kidding. I can't even say nice things. Paul Virzi is my guest
thanks
today,
for
buddy.
having me, man.
Dude, thank you so much. And of course, the host of the Virzi Effect. How
Yeah.
did I not say that?
Yeah, doing that a long time too.
Yeah, so thank you so much. You've welcomed me into your home. We're recording this podcast the day after your special filmed.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
I must like you after last night.
I gotta say, that was great. And we're gonna talk about everything. And so I just want to start with, dude, how do you feel? The special is filmed.
It's to be honest, it's still a little surreal. It was just so much leading up to it, and it was just traveling in airplanes and not knowing what day. Like I was in Phoenix, Arizona. I drove to Delaware, then I came back. I was Phoenix. Then right when I got back from Phoenix, I had to go to Boston, and then when after Boston, I had to go to the Montreal Comedy Festival, and that was nerve-wracking because I had to do 8 minutes on Kevin Hart's show.
All right, Laugh Out Loud.
I did a television taping for his, for his Laugh Out Loud network, and they were like, "Listen, they're gonna own that." So I tried saying no.
Oh, they were gonna own the material.
I tried saying no, and my manager was like, "You know what? Can we? JFL was good to me, and my manager was like, "Can we get him on another show because he's doing a special and that's gonna be 8 minutes?" And they're like, "No, he'll be fine." And they kind of just really, kind of pushed for me.
Sounds like strong-armed it a little bit.
Yeah, they were like, and I was like, all right, So I had to do that. So that was really nerve-wracking, and then come back, and then boom. Go fly out to Cleveland and come back and run the set in New York. So it's been so much on my family, so much on me, and just getting the set right and questioning the set and doing all those different things. So last night, everything coming to a head, and it feels it's relief. I have a little vacation now,
nice.
So I'm just gonna. But I got to tell you something, the culmination of everything and seeing the hard work and listen, I'll say this, and I know it may sound corny, it may sound cliche, but, dreams come true, man. And if this can happen for me, it can happen for anybody that really works hard. It really is just working hard. Josh, you see me in Ottawa, you see me in Toronto. I take what I do seriously. I'm not a guy that shows up late and drinks and does all that shit. I want the hour to be good. I mean, that I've taken, light money for gigs, working up to this thing. It's like, it's not about the money now. If you're looking at money now, you're making a big mistake. It's about, you're going to get anything that you want to get. You just have to put out good stuff. And once you put out good stuff, you're going to be compensated for it properly, but you just need to get there.
Right.
And that's exactly, how I felt. So I was taking gigs for light money, but it was like, let's get the hour good. Let's get the hour good. And,
and that's how we met too. Because I saw you at the National Arts Center and at TD Place, both in Ottawa.
Yes.
And I saw just a little piece of the hour when you opened for Burr in Ottawa. And then when you came up to do Absolute, we got to work together for a week, and I got to see, the hour, at least the good first 50 minutes kind of thing. And then we worked together in Toronto. I saw it evolve. So over the time that we've known each other, I've seen the content of this special just get stronger and stronger. And then I hadn't seen you since Toronto, but the buzz around the special, the hour, was unreal. Like everybody, when Joe was here, I spoke with Joe a few weeks ago, and Joe was saying, dude, you got to see it now. It's next level. Next level, sorry. And, Burr on his podcast was talking about it. And I got to tell you, honestly, last night watching it, there was so much that I hadn't seen, so much that I'd seen grow from what I'd seen last dude. And I was sitting there like a kid at Christmas, grinning ear to ear. Like I was so happy for you.
Oh, thanks,
dude.
Man.
I was so happy for you. And it was outstanding. It was absolutely outstanding. I'm really excited.
You think
man.
so? I appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy because after the first show, I got off stage, and this is real, man. This is some inside stuff I'll give your podcast. But after the first show, I came off, and everyone's like, "You did it. You nailed it. You got it in the can." And I I had fun the first show, but there were things that I knew that I was just like, you know what? Now that I kind of have the lay of the land, maybe I'm going to add this, or it's a different feel with the special. And like I was saying, when you do a special in a theater, it's not like doing a theater show normally, because normally when you do a theater show, or I've had the honor and privilege of opening for Bill Burr in some of the biggest theaters in the world, Carnegie Hall and all these Chicago theater, and it's always dark. And it's like, you see the first couple of rows and then it's dark. And you're just up there telling jokes and you're going with beats and laughs and it's a dark room. Now I'm going out there and I'm like, yeah, are they going to dim the lights? And like, kind of for a special, not really. On camera, it's going to look a lot darker than reality. I
get that.
So I was just like, all right. And so once the first one was out of the way and they were like, oh man, you're playing with house money now. Go out there and just get some, get used parts if you have to or whatever. But the second one, the one that you came to, I think was definitely, for me, I felt better. I felt like it was just the way that I wanted it. And the relief and everything afterwards, it was just a surreal feeling. But to have the love and support, man, Bill Burr there, Pete Davidson there, but then not only that, then you see some of the biggest agents in the world,
right?
Biggest agencies and people and TV executives going in saying, hey, we're happy to be here, good luck. And then, my friends Bobby Kelly coming in and Giannis Pappas and Sal Vicano, you guys know Sal Vicano from Impractical Jokers. Sal is such a great dude, and me and him are becoming really good friends, and he's like, man, I wouldn't have missed this. And just having all of them, like when it's showtime, rush out and knowing that everybody's there and this is your time and this is your moment. And it's like, but I said something. I said, you know what? This is what it is. This is what you play for, right? Yep. It's like this moment you want. And now it's here. So it's like, this is what we do. So it's like, you go out there and do it. You got an opportunity to go out and do it. So to answer your question, I'm sorry if I was long-winded.
Take as long as you want.
It was surreal. I'm still coming down from it.
Oh, absolutely.
The after party, which you were at, we're on the water, on the Hudson River in the water with the Tappan Zee Bridge, the new Tappan Zee Bridge and the old one next to each other because they're building it, and just seeing the boats and then Bobby Kelly pulling out Cuban cigars and everybody there, and the place staying open till 3 a.m. on the water. It was just
everything was unreal. Everything was unreal.
It was unbelievable.
And it's funny enough because we're the Airbnb we stayed at, the host was walking us through Terrytown, and of course Terrytown Music Hall. I don't know if we mentioned that's where you filmed your special.
I filmed at Terrytown Music
Hall. Beautiful theater. But we're walking back to the car to meet for the after party, and we're walking through Sleepy Hollow. Yeah. And I didn't realize that's like the quote unquote legendary Sleepy Hollow with the headless horseman and everything. I'm like, that is so cool. Like, again, of all places, the night was surreal. We're walking through this.
I was actually glad it wasn't in Sleepy Hollow, just because I bombed at Sleepy Hollow, a country club. It was for all men. It was like a literally one percenters, like millionaire and billionaires. Yeah. Very, very far right wing. And I made a joke about Chris Christie, and Jason Law had opened and killed. And then I went up there and they wanted no part of me. And I mean, I ate my balls outside. These guys are eating carved beef off of just a spit. It was like these guys, and then
they got albino gorilla that they're eating.
Yeah, and they just came off this legendary golf course, and they're smoking cigars, and they're dressed up, and they get in the locker room, and they go sit outside, and they got servants giving them things, and then it's like, all right, comedy, go ahead. And I ate my dick. So
it feels like the kings and the old jesters.
Yeah,
you're really just sitting in thrones.
It got to the point where they were like, all right, you're done. Towards the end, because I started to talk about politicians that they didn't like, and I was like, no, and I was like, whatever. And I just walked out. It was brutal. So every time I hear Sleepy Hollow, it was like a movie bombing.
Right.
It would have been
someone was writing a scene of bombing. If
a director was like, all right, listen, here's what's going to happen. He's going to come up here, maybe one person smile. I need everybody else looking at him like they hate him, and a couple of people and it was awful. So no, but Terrytown is next to it, and that was much better.
Oh, it was great. And like I said too, the after party was amazing. I didn't sort of know what to expect. I thought we were going to be inside a bar, but it was beautiful. We're outside, like you said, smoking cigars by the water. It was a great. It felt like, if I could say this, and not in a derogatory way, but it's like it felt like a grad party. You know what I mean? It felt like you just with your friends, and something big, a big achievement just happened. You know what I mean? Like it felt like a graduation, at least what is the word I'm looking for? Definitely just a movement forward. You know what I mean? A milestone.
A milestone, yeah. And I felt it too. I felt like after it was done, I knew after that was done, especially the second one, I knew that was the one that I wanted. And I knew that the first one was good. And we all agreed if the first show would have been my special, I'd have been fine with it. But now seeing how how the second one went and what I did with the second one and the way I was just, it was way better. So yeah, man. And people say you're crazy. The first one was good, but there were little things. But once it was,
I get that. I get that feeling.
As a comic, and you just like people could say it, but even like the director and everybody working on it, like, because after the first show, I kind of got a little angry when everyone's like, that was great. And I'm like, watch this fucking next one.
Okay.
And I kind of had a little bit of a like a chip on the shoulder.
Okay.
Like I had a little bit of a chip on, just like, okay, you think that was good? Watch. And I went out there and like, my agent, everybody went out there, but, to honestly, like, and I'm not saying this to be corny, if you, like, I was a guy who wasn't invited to the, like, Dane Cook said this one time, and, I remember, like, him, and I don't know how true this is, but he said he wasn't a guy that was invited to the party, and then until he just had to make headway and do his thing. I was definitely a guy not invited to the party. I was a guy who was like, well, you heard what Bill said last night. He was like, Paul wasn't one of those, alternative, just like self-deprecating, bearded up, weird kind of. No, I'm a guy's guy. I'm a family man. I have children. I drink scotch. I smoke cigars. I love sports, and I'm just a guy's guy. So that really wasn't popular when I was coming up. Montreal didn't want that. JFL didn't want me. So I was always just, put my head down and swallow hard sometimes and doing it. And then to have people that are just so big in the business there for my special, I just looked around, and I actually at one point I said to my wife, and listen, this is my first one. I have a lot of work to do. I have an album and now hopefully a special that people will see, hopefully, knock on wood. But it's like, I just looked at my wife. I was like, how do we get here? How do we get here? I remember we were living in this tiny little thing, and I had like 6 bad minutes and no manager. And my wife was like, and it was scary. My wife was pregnant with my son when I was like a feature, and making like, like a feature when like 600 for the weekend was good. And I got a baby coming.
Yeah.
So I can honestly say, man, it was just plug away. Any comics listening to this, don't worry about money now, because if nobody knows you, they're not going to pay you. You don't need to be. That nobody knows. No one's going to go, oh, well, that guy's funny, so let's bump him up. That's not reality. What it is go in there, tell jokes that are so fucking undeniable and funny, and people will go, dude, that was great. I want you back. I want you here. And then you negotiate, and you up the money, and people keep coming back. I told you, get a podcast. Yeah. But, if you just get to a point where people can't say, no to that joke.
It's be undeniable. That's one of the first things that you told me when we worked together. It's like, it doesn't matter who's calling you to get booked or what festival, whatever. If you're undeniable, then you're going to be there.
Well, I think my JFL story. My JFL story was I had to stew in, an audition that they said no, because my first audition was great, but my second one was good. And they were like, well, if you kill so hard on one and the other one you just do good, that's inconsistent, and we need people there. Meanwhile, they were taking people that they just wanted to, listen, I get it. They people have hookups, there's casting, I get all that. So I waited and I did my audition again the next year. This is like the third time. This is the third year now. And I had a great audition on the first one, and I had a great audition on the second one, and I went 10th out of 10 on the first one. And they said there at that night, they said, the people who were looking at us, you know the names. They were like, Paul had the best set. And me and my manager at the time, David Kimowitz, we went to a Korean barbecue place in New York City, and we were like, that's it. I mean, if they say no to that, they basically just said I had the best callback. They, everything. And so a week or two later, my managers called me to their office, and I'm like, did you hear from JFL? And they were like, sit down. And I was like, oh boy. And they were like, look, they said that this was one of the hardest decisions that the festival had to make this year. They love you. They actually took time delaying this decision, but they have to, unfortunately, they have to pass because, and they gave me some reasons, whatever, business reasons, political, whatever. And they were like, but don't worry, you will be at JFL. You're going to be at JFL Toronto. You're going to be at JFL here. It's hard. It sucks that you did as good as you did and you're not coming in and all that stuff. And I just had to put my head down. And I remember being at a 4th of July party at my wife's, my mother-in-law's family. and I'm in the pool and I'm just thinking about it, and I know the festival's coming up,
The
and I'm
water's
not
boiling.
going. And, yeah, like I'm in the pool and the water, and I kept bringing
This was
shit
in a
up.
hot tub last year. No, Paul's very upset. He got some bad news.
Yeah, it's so true. I was like, and my wife is like, "Can you stop thinking about it?"
It's like nuclear rod just in the water.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, I get a text, and the text said, "JFL is asking if you're free from like the 14th to the 24th or some crazy," and I'm going, "JFL, what is?" And I'm thinking like, "Is that a club?" You know? And then I go, "Wait a minute, is that the festival?"
Yeah,
and they were
just
like,
relax.
"Yeah," and they were just like, "Yeah, pack your bags, you're going." And basically, what it was they were like, "Look, we've seen Paul," and they also saw me open for Burr at the Paramount Theater in Austin for the Moon Tower Festival, and the decision maker was in the room, and it was incredible, and they were like, they were like, "That was great," and I think that helped. But they were like, "Listen, Paul's not really a new face, but he deserves to be here, and he needs to be in the festival." And it was like, that's what the audition did. And then I got there and I ended up doing like the relationship show. But then I ended up doing like Best of the Fest. I ended up opening for Bobby Kelly one night, Judah Friedlander another night, Moshe Kasher one night, jumping on this show. I ended up doing like 14 shows in 10 days at JFL.
Nice.
And the next year I went to a gala. I did a gala. So it went from that to just going like, okay, just do it. If you just get good, okay? And again, I'm not trying to sit here and say that I'm some great comic, but I'm saying get better. And just have them look going, we gotta, he auditioned and did it, so what are we gonna do?
Right.
And that's and if you get to that point, man, that's what I did. And you know, Bill Burr, man, he's as good of a human being as he is a comic, but he's his wisdom, and he goes, just fucking get to the point where they just can't say no. And to have Pete Davidson and Bill Burr go, we want to be a part of it. We want to executive produce your special, and we're gonna and All Things Comedy, and obviously shout out to Al Madrigal, All Things Comedy, to do it, and they did it. And you know, last night to have them feel like they did the right thing afterwards was really what. Oh God, yeah, is right, because that's the one thing. It was almost like all these people are betting on me. See, that's where the pressure was last night. All these people were betting on me. You know, they were just like, he's going to give it to him. Like, if I was a horse, they're betting on me to win.
Yeah.
And
they're friends, too. Like,
and they're friends, and it's love.
Yeah. And there's a point where, I mean, like, I know it's happened, too, with things where you just go, like, now it's not even just about me. I'm not even just like, I want to just do it. Like, you're like, I got a lot of other people riding on things. So it's, like you said, it's added pressure. You know what I mean? You don't want to be like, yeah, okay, I want to kill it. I want to do a great job. But I mean, I want to do it for them too. It's not just about me.
You know, I kept saying, I said, you know, I said to Bill, man, you know, worst case, you know, I just want you to, you know, if you guys invested or whatever, like, you know, I didn't want to even know what all the behind the scenes stuff was. But, you know, you obviously know that there's people that invest in you financially. There's people that put in their name out for you. There's companies. I mean, look, that was a production.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had a producer. I had a director. There was like fucking 17 people. You saw there's Mike.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's
huge
cameras.
tables. I walked in and said to everybody, I'm like, you guys are doing a great job. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
They all had to look like, who the hell is this guy? But
Yeah.
I'm like, I just know that they're working for my friend tonight. So I want them happy. I want them to do it.
They were just like, oh, do you want to come to Video Village and see what's going on? And I was like, what's Video Village? And I walked in the back of the theater, and it literally was like all of these screens, all these different shots. And this is like a full-fledged production. There's like makeup and catering. And I'm going, all of these people, and I'm just like, I don't want to let anybody down,
right.
You know. But then I had to go, forget that, man. Go and do your set. Go have fun with your jokes, and go do it. Go do the jokes, and just have the pieces come out, and to have people, you know, say what they said, and how that show was received by people that I fucking love and respect, and not only that, people that have been doing it like almost twice as long as me. Saying what they said and saying the kind things, it's amazing. Having my wife come up to me and just give me a kiss and say, I'm proud of you. Having my agent slap me 5 and my manager who's worked hard for it's just, honestly, man, it was a great night. And I appreciate you and Kumar driving down from, you know, fucking Ottawa, 7.5 hours or whatever it was.
It was a labor of love. I can tell you that right now, buddy.
So you helped me get the new hour, because when you were like, hey, I'm trying to get you, I saw you open for Burr in Ottawa, and I'm trying to get you into this room, and this and that. Do you think you're free? And like, that was kind of when I only had about, you know, maybe 35, 40 minutes. I was still trying to figure out the other 20. I mean, I had an hour, but as
Right.
far as like what's gonna make, you know, it was at the time where there was topical things, there was stuff like that. I think it really helped. So yeah, it's awesome. And I mean, that's the thing. When you guys drove far, man, that's love from everywhere. And you know, you heard what I said when at the end.
Oh yeah, I mean,
You know?
I thought it was great to see, because you were saying earlier about how, you know, originally when you were showcasing, you're like, you know, I'm a guy's guy, I'm a family man, I'm not, you know, alternative or whatever. And I think that's what I kind of like. I mean, if they were looking at it like, oh, we don't want that, I'm almost like, that is one of the unique aspects in the business, because the alternative is everyone's trying to be alternative now. So to come out and be the guy who's the average guy, the family man, you know, but to have a lot of integrity and to just be a good person, being that guy in stand-up now, like that's the guy, that's the unique right there. Bring that guy out.
Yeah, it's
you know what I'm saying? He's not screaming and yelling at everybody. He's not trying to kill everybody. He's just like, hey man, you know how you live in your life and funny shit happens?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
like,
kind of funny how it's like that's becoming that, like just talking natural about your life and making things that are in your life funny is kind of almost being refreshing now.
yeah.
It's changed, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't want to scream and yell about all the, you know, I'm not trying to listen to guys throwing napalms off buildings. Like I just want to hear the funny day-to-day shit
that happens.
I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
My, you know, my home, my family, things like that. I thought, like I said, it was great to see. I was grinning ear to ear last night. I can't wait to see the finished product.
Yeah.
Are you gonna sit in on the editing, or are you gonna be like, look, just hand it off to someone I trust?
I'm gonna be a part of the editing, but I don't think I'm gonna watch it.
Really?
I don't think I'm gonna sit and watch myself do an hour. You know, I'll be honest with you, I haven't listened to my album. My album was, and by the way, thank you Canada, because my album was number one not only in America, but my album was number one on iTunes in Canada.
Yeah, dude.
And All Things Comedy Records, who produced, they were the one to tell me that. They were like, yeah, no, it's number one in Canada too. And you told me that all the reviews, and there have more reviews from Canada. Canada has been, honestly, it's been like my little brother of comedy. It's been like something. It's just been a lovely place to go. Not just the Montreal Festival. I mean, Montreal Festival is the best in the world, but fans in Toronto, Ottawa is one of my favorite places. I just have great times there. I have great sets there. I love Ottawa. But yeah, the support from over there. But when the album came out, I listened. Oh boy,
I think that's the food.
Fucking FBI.
We ordered some food, guys, so we'll edit this part out. Maybe something funny will happen and you'll hear it in the background, and we'll just keep it in. Oh, I can hear it in the headset. We'll hear the interaction. We were at Casa de Virzi, which is up a hill in Westchester County. Yeah, it was quite the drive up here. So when we ordered food, it was like, oh, are we going to make some guy drive up a mountain? That's 3 sandwiches. They put 2 bags. How big are those fucking sandwiches? No, dude. Whatever you like. Whatever you like. Do you want to keep going? Hey, I'm in no rush. So like,
how much time are you doing the podcast? An hour?
I don't limit it. I've had some that are 50 minutes. I've had some that are 2 hours.
Okay. Where are you at now?
We're at 24 minutes.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah, man. Like I said, whatever you want. If you want to stop and eat, we can. We can always go back. Whatever you like.
Let's go now. We got a flow going.
All right. So we were just talking about before we were rudely interrupted by the delivery boy.
Like a nice kid too, but like he banged on the door like
oh,
I had
really?
kilos of cocaine. I mean, maybe I heard it differently because I had these headphones on or the microphone, but that sounded like
maybe he wasn't sure what wing of the house you were in. He's like, I want him to hear me in the library. That's how they knock in Canada. They all just bang, bang, bang on the door.
Yeah,
so.
like when I delivered pies, I would just kind of do a little, a couple. But that guy was like, boom, boom, boom. I was like scared the shit out of me actually. But yeah, so we were saying. Well,
you were saying how you were in, in Canada. You've had a lot of recognition in Canada there.
Well, Canada's been great. But no, what I was saying was I was very, very much in the process of editing my album. So I did hear the bits kind of chopped, but when it was like the finished product was done, I still don't think I could honestly say it sold great in obviously America and Canada, and it was number 1. It made number 4 on Billboard's Top 100, and I have not listened to my album from top to bottom. It's like after I do it, like even last night, just watching myself, like I'll like come in for a quick thing. I'll look at my sneakers, I'll maybe listen to a part of a joke or, probably the ending, which people are talking about. Like a lot of people are talking about the ending of my set with the depression and the mass shooting thing and all that. So like I'll maybe just peek in and watch that or something. But as far as that, it's kind of like it's
hard to listen to.
It's just hard to listen to yourself. It's hard to watch yourself, and Yeah, so I'm going to just kind of make sure that's in, make sure this is in, let's make sure that looks good. I trust you guys with everything.
Right.
I didn't give them so much more. Some guys do like an hour and 20 and edit it down. I definitely did over an hour on the second show. And the first show was probably like just over an hour or at an hour. So
I didn't even see anything, and like I said, I mean, being there, like I'm excited to see it, and I'm enjoying it, but at the same time, like, because I have anxiety, like I'm sitting there watching, like, oh my god, like just if I was in your shoes, right? Like I'm very empathetic. Like I'm like, if I was in your shoes, like I would, oh my god, I'd be so nervous about this, I'd be so nervous about that, and I didn't see any evidence of nerves on you on that show.
Oh, really?
So I had, when you were saying how the first show was this and that, I was like, oh well, then it was a huge difference from the second one, because the second one I didn't see anything that led me to believe that you were nervous, like that you've got a bunch of cameras and you're filming your first fucking special. I didn't see any evidence of that, and that was part of what was making me grin so much. I'm like, but dude, you're just manning it. You're in the zone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just watching some surgeon moving a scalpel like he's a conductor of an orchestra.
Oh, man, that means a lot. Thank you.
And I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I wouldn't lie to you.
No, I appreciate it.
I'm just saying that everything was great. I'm like, you couldn't ask for better. So
man, that means a lot. Thank you.
I would just say, I mean, watching that special last night, because I was looking around too, ready to do that thing where we watch the crowd, everyone's smiling, having a good time, laughing and everything. Like, oh, this is going great. This is going great. There was no lulls.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes in an hour you'll see that. It's that you watch a special that you love on Netflix, but it always gets to that joke that you're always like, oh, now's the time you can get up and walk out and grab the. I didn't see any of those.
Do you want to know the truth? I got rid of the lull in Cleveland, I think. So that's the importance of running the hour. I was doing Cleveland Hilarities, running it 6 times. My buddy Alexis was opening for me. And I was looking at the set, and everything with the set was going great, but there was always this one area where I'm like, it's too much of a lull. I don't want a lull. And for whatever happened, and you know when I knew it? I knew it with, this was actually really interesting. I knew it with the check spot, when the check spot would come. Mm-hmm. And something happened. I don't know what I did or what I figured out or how I tightened it up or what I did with the order, but I figured something out where not only it was like a seamless. It was almost like there wasn't checks anymore. Like the checks didn't happen. Like, wow. I mean, it happened, but it didn't happen to me. And I was like, oh man, that might have been the fix. And I felt like from top to bottom, it was just, it flowed the way that I wanted it to. Another thing that people don't know about doing a special is, it's hot and it is exhausting. I remember one time, I think Chris Rock did, it was Bigger and Blacker. I think it was Bigger and Blacker. And his brother, Tony Rock, who I love and just worked with out at LOL, live.
Something kicked on.
Oh, the air conditioner. Yeah, and he walks in, and you see Chris done. Chris is done, okay? He did the special, and he goes in his room, and he's just sitting in the green room, and his brother comes in, and you could just look at him, and you could see the exhaustion. And there was a point there where I remember I was like, I sweated, and I'm not a sweater, but they had to turn all the air conditioning off. So that's why it was so hot in there. So what happens is they crank the air conditioning up while there's a line outside and while people are filing in. As soon as it's time to get going, they have to shut it off because there'll be a buzz or a hum or something.
Right.
And they were like, we don't want that because there's cameras everywhere. So by the time I'm like 35, 40 minutes in,
you're feeling
I'm
that.
sweating, I want to go to the towel. You got to do it because you're just, and I remember being like at the home stretch. I had like 3 pieces left, 3 bits. And I'm just going like, you got to get through this. But at the same time, don't think like that. Have fun. But you got to get through this and don't pass out. Like my wife is going, how's he not passing out? It's like, and when I was done, I just, I felt like I just went 12 rounds with a boxer, because it was, and I walk a lot.
Right.
Like I'm not the type of comic that just stands there and talks. Like I walk, I talk, I stalk the stage. I have the whole thing. And there's a lot of act outs. So
it's like you're running a treadmill for an hour while you're up there.
Yeah, it was like I worked out.
Yeah.
And I had to
stop to take a sip, and then you're back to the walk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you're gonna have to do in your next special is have like one of those kids at marathon just stand at the side of the stage with a cup of water.
Yeah.
So you can just grab it on your way by.
Or the tennis when they just run and get the tennis ball. Just they run, they pat me up. And then,
he just runs by and flaps. You can add that to the gay bit too. Just the towel and then runs off.
Oh, the gay bit was one that I was really happy to get in there. Because it was actually a newer piece, probably the last.
I'd never heard it before, and it was hysterical.
Oh, thank you.
It was hysterical. It's so relatable. One of my closest friends is.
Yeah.
I said this the other day. I'm sorry to interrupt,
no,
but this was, and he laughed his ass off when I said it. I go, my friend is so gay. Like you're like, oh well, there's different levels of gay. I'm like, imagine somebody who hates gay people. Like what he thinks a gay person is.
Yeah.
That's my friend.
That's hilarious.
Like if you could just think of everything that you would think is flamboyant and but somebody who was angry about it would think.
Yeah.
That's him.
Yeah.
A wonderful human being, but he is just out there.
Yeah, no, I got that. That's actually kind of a real character from somebody that I see down in the city at the spot and waiter. And I was just like, and everybody loves him. Everybody loves him. He's a great waiter, but he's just so flamboyant. Just says anything. Like, oh my God, and this and that. And you're just like, hey, that's him, and that's how he is. And he'll give you the food and, say something funny about the food. But then he's like a killer waiter where he's just like, do you need water? And he knows. Like, he's one of those waiters. A good waiter. He's one of those waiters that's like he doesn't have to ask you if you need a refill.
Yeah.
It's already coming, and then he'll just take it and put the drink in and just talk to you. And you're just like, he's one of those. Yeah. But he's just so over the top and says crazy things. And I just like riffed it on stage one night, and all of a sudden I started to see, and then another piece came, and then another piece came, and before you know it, and then to do with the grizzly bear callback.
Yep.
So that all kind of came together later. Those little pieces, the grizzly bear and that. So some things came in later, and I'm like, you know what? Replace that with over topical. I didn't want to get, I don't want to go too topical, but, I had to touch, and I did, one thing I was concerned with the hour, now that we're talking about it, was I didn't want to go too far with Trump, I don't want to go too far with politics, but it's such a polarizing thing right now. And I mean, with the Facebook posts and the way that everybody's talking in this country, I mean, I know you guys know what's going on. Yeah. And I always joke when I go to Canada saying that you guys are watching us like we're it's the season finale of your favorite show.
Yeah.
And you're
we
just
watch it like a reality TV show.
Yeah.
Survivor. How are you guys going to get through this?
Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't want, but I was like, you know what, dude, this is going on so much, and the whole North Korea scare, and Trump just comes out and like, he doesn't care. He's going to say what he's going to say. I was like, I'm going to definitely touch it, but then go away from it. And I strategically did it early in the set. I just kind of was like, you know what, let's just talk about it. And I really did not, the thing about where I don't do social media anymore.
Right.
With that. Like my social media, even I went to a local radio station, and they like to do this thing where they look at your last tweet. And they were like, man, you just really kind of just plug your stuff. You don't really have, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of don't anymore, because you'll see something on both sides of the political seesaw that's so ridiculous, and you want to say something, like everybody say, oh, World War III is coming now, and then North Korea's going to drop a nuke and we're dead, and like literally people go, wow, I got to do this on my bucket list, was going to die, and like some people were like serious, and then I saw some people going, when is Trump just going to die, like seriously saying, when is he going to die, this man needs to die, and like they're being serious, and
that's too far.
It's very far.
Yeah.
It's very far to just like be like, die. I mean, you could be like, hey, I don't like the guy. I can't wait for the guy to be gone. Is it 3 years yet?
Well, that's Heather. Like I said, Heather did the joke about Survivor saying it's a 4-year thing. That's her joke about we watch it like a Survivor and these people are all trapped there. And there's other people who, like I said, their stuff is just the anger. Like it's still, there's only so much he can do at the same time, whether you agree or whatever. Like. Yeah. Whether you think he's going to do the good things or you think he's going to do the bad, there's only so much they're going to let him do.
Yeah.
He's still being supervised.
Right.
You can give the kids a dangerous toy, but there's still an adult within.
Yeah.
And
that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something where it wasn't timed. Like it's something that's like, I didn't want to talk about anything obviously that he's exactly doing now. Like I didn't want to bring up the North Korea thing. And then people are going to see that whenever and go, well, what? So I just kind of wanted to goof on his personality, talk about it. It kind of went good with my not doing it on social media, and then go away from it. So, that's how I did it with that. But always things are adding, and you'll see that like when you do an album or you do an hour, you're going to notice that leading up to it, almost to the day, you're going to go, oh my God, I'm adding that line. Yeah. Like you're gonna say like, oh my God, you're gonna just and then be like, what? So it's gonna happen.
Well, that's the thing with material is it can always evolve. Like don't ever consider a joke done. There's always room for another tag to tighten this, tweak that, stuff that in there. Like there's so much stuff. Yeah. And that's so I mean I just not to bookend the conversation about the special, but just again congratulations on getting that done, dude. That's a huge milestone. And I think the word I was looking for was it felt transitionary. Do you know what I mean? Like from one end to the other. Now you've gone past. You filmed the first special. That's a something that not every comic, whether you're known or not, gets to do. That's huge.
I really appreciate that, and I'd have to agree. It was like I remember, they were like, certain comics go, you did it, man. You got the first one. And yeah, it feels nice to have that, to just have that and know that I accomplished that. You know, if you know, I wanted to have an album and I wanted to have some hours out there, and I want to just be funny for people and have something out there for people, you know, and to do that is great. So I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
And it's nice to have a tangible piece of your work. I'm actually very slowly reading George Carlin's last words. And one of the things he says in the book is when he first started putting stuff out there, his albums and his books and whatnot, he was saying that he felt like if at one point he got, you know, hit with a disease or something, and he was just staring in a chair or sitting in a chair staring, he couldn't talk or anything, he'd be able to sort of look over at a bookshelf and just see some of his work sitting there and go, I've left something, you know, I've made something, I've created something, and I've given it to the world.
Yeah, what's amazing is that I got to tell you I can't tell you the amount of people, staff, older, different ages, older men working, young people coming up to me and saying, hey, can I talk to you real quick? And this is happening in the last couple of months. And they're just going, man, that, you know, you talking about your darkness and you talking about your depression, man, like, thank you. And like, people are like, that meant so much. And I didn't realize that. So I wanted to make that funny, but I also wanted to let people know that it's okay. Mm-hmm. And if you're a little fucked up and you have something, it's okay. And if you trust people that love you and you're obviously not doing drugs and you want to get better, you're going to get better. So if one person, dude, sees that, if one person is like, oh man, I feel better. One person can say, man, I loved the show, but I also feel better and like I suffer from it. Yeah. You know, I
don't feel alone.
I had one of the biggest agents in the world come up to me yesterday and go, man, a lot of people go through that, and like people relate to it. So, yeah. So if God forbid, you know, I got hit by a truck tomorrow, and somebody could go, hey man, I was funny. It made me feel good. So, you know, that's good with me, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't want to get hit by a truck tomorrow because I got a vacation coming up.
Yeah,
and
wait till the end. Can you imagine all this work you do and you get hit by that? Would be funny. That'd be his last joke. Worked so hard, vacation, boom.
Oh, please. God forbid.
But I mean, I'm 34, and just in the last year, and I would say maybe just the last 6 months, I've been everything that I thought was like ADD or just, you know, a broken train of thought or whatever. I'm actually starting to think that it's anxiety. Just looking at patterns of anxiety and stuff like that. And I used to think that things like that were like weakness. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't mean berate anybody or anything like that, but I just used to think that, you know, if you're like, oh, I'm anxious, I'm like, I associate anxiety with just having panic attacks. I'm like, I'm not having panic attacks. I just can't stay focused. I worry about things. I'm stressing. I'm whatever it is. But more and more, and I see the patterns of anxiety, and I realize that like I deal with anxiety in almost everything. Like I you know, it's the like you were saying about how you see something and you go, what if I just did this? What if I just threw the baby or whatever it is? And it's like, and that's the thoughts. It's almost like what if this happens? What am I going to do if this happens? And it's just constant anxiety. And so I'm looking at trying to manage it better, but it's such a big thing to you know, be like, it's okay that maybe there's something.
Yeah.
And then number two, it's okay to talk to somebody about it.
Sure.
You know, you're not, hey, can I talk to you? Hey, I'm weak. You're going, like, it takes a lot of courage to be like, I think something's wrong and I think I need help.
Yeah. Well, for me, anxiety was different than depression. Mm-hmm. Anxiety, having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, that was one thing. You know, when I fell into my depression, I was like, it was almost like physical. Like, I was like, I didn't want to, waking up was painful. Waking up. Like, I would wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning in a full-fledged, awful, breathing heavy, scared of I don't know what, thinking something was wrong with me, thinking I was dying. I wasn't enjoying anything. All I wanted to do was get to dinner so I could eat dinner and then go lay down. And the only time I felt good was around 6 o'clock at night because I knew that the night was winding down, but I was afraid to sleep because I woke up always so awful. And that's what was crazy. So like it was like from like 6 to like 11:30, 12, where I was laying up. I felt okay because I got the TV and I'm in my misery, but I'm like kind of, you know.
But it's prime time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the best of my day. And then now I wake up and I would toss and turn and I'd wake up and stuff. There was one part that I did in the first show I didn't in the second. I'm going to see if they could put it in. But, you know, my wife was dealing with a lot of stuff with it. And, I just was so fucking down, and I would wake up and I would just be like, I was on vacation. I couldn't enjoy my vacation. And slowly, I don't know what happened. I mean, I got every test.
Right.
I got every test. I thought I had a brain tumor. I got a CAT scan on my, then I was they were putting needles to check my muscles because I had a thing in my neck. I mean, it was just awful. Awful. It was the hardest 4 months of my life, and it was literally this exact moment last year. It was from about, I would say, middle to late July until October, where I was in a really, really bad spot. And I think right as I came out of it, I did Ottawa. I think like towards the...
You did Ottawa in June with me, so we worked there together, and it was when you were coming out of it, we worked in Toronto, and you had told me what had gone on between the times that we'd worked together.
And you know what's crazy? In Ottawa, I felt something weird happening. I was having great shows, everything was good, but my body was beat up. And then I had a 4th of July party. We stayed up 2 nights in a row till 7 in the morning. I was drinking, so I was weaker mentally. My body's physically weaker, and I start to get it. And then it was just boom. And then it was a full-fledged depression, and it was a breakdown. I think I had a nervous breakdown / depression where everything hit me, and and then it just slowly started to get better. And slowly started to and I'm like, and I wanted to get better.
Yeah.
I wanted to get better. And I said, like, I wouldn't, what sucked is, like, I wouldn't kill myself. So I was like, I'm just going to either live in this darkness and be miserable forever or whatever. And that's what kind of hurt. Because I was like, I'm not, I got kids, and I want to be here. I want to see this. I want to, we're all going to go one day, and I want to go later. I'll do this. I want to get through shit. And I got better, man. So, but to be able to get back to what I wanted to be stronger than ever, and to understand what I can do to avoid that now, and put my OCD at bay and do that. So everything. But if one person could listen to me talk about that and try to make a joke about it, but no, that's okay. That's it, man.
Yeah,
that's the best. That's the best.
Well, I hadn't heard. I mean, you told me what you were going through, but some of the things that you said on stage last night, just because when you're doing stand-up, you got to summarize the whole thing.
Yeah,
super short. When you were saying how you didn't want to look at the kids at times because you're like, I think I'm never going to see them. I'm not going to see them grow up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Believe it or not, because some people are going to listen to this. I would imagine there's going to be some TV people listening to this.
Sure.
Who've never heard me speak before, but in episode 5. I was actually talking about one thing that was going on in my life, and I started to just get down this personal road where I put a bunch of pieces that I thought were separate things together all at the same time period, and realized, like, holy shit, like, this is why I started stand-up. I always thought that I just got pressured into it by friends, but I had a health scare that I too was like, I'm done. I was convinced that I was done, but instead of going to the doctors and getting checked, I didn't. I was like, I don't want to know, because if someone tells me that I'm done, I'll die that day. My good nature and everything like that will stop then, not in 6 months.
Right.
So I was just like, if I get to live 4 more months, and because there's a chance I might not be because I don't know, then I'd rather have that 4 months of which is ridiculous. But
no,
I'm saying
but I get it. I actually get it.
I had things in my life that I was like, I was convinced I was done, and it's just a matter of time and whatever. And I actually, believe it or not, was years just ignoring health problems that I'm now finally figuring out. After multiple tests that were like, we don't know, I have hernias and stuff like that are creating lumps on my sides.
Yeah.
When those lumps were developing, I thought they were cancer.
Sure.
So I was like, I was in pain all the time in my side, and I couldn't sleep, I couldn't walk, I couldn't sit, and I was just ignoring it. Like, I learned to live with the pain, and I'm like, it could just be a pull, it could be a tear or something. They don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it could be something not bad. That's what I was trying to think. It was something better. Anyways.
Yeah, I totally get that. I totally get that road, and I know the road. We just did it different. Like me, I would have a complete freak out, and I'd go to the doctors, and I'd be like, check it. But while they were checking it, I'd be like, something's coming back bad, and I would just live like that, and instead of doing what you did. But I know we basically did the same thing,
right?
But just went about it in different ways. Yeah. You lived in it, and you were like, I'm just gonna hope this gets better. I hope I'm okay. And I was going to I was getting every test you could possibly get, but still in it.
Yeah, but both of us were like, we're done.
Yeah, we're
done.
I mean, I was. When I tell you I was convinced I had a brain tumor, when I tell you I was convinced, I was fucking convinced. I was getting dizzy on stage. I had pressure on my head, and it was all from just anxiety. It was all psychological, and it was it was there. The tightness in the head was there. I was fucked up, but it was all just in my head, and it's just amazing, man. It's amazing, but I gotta say, I don't know if I would be here. And I mean, here in my career, doing a special, I don't know if I would have been here if I didn't go through that. If I didn't hit that bumpy road, if I didn't get on that path and just take those lumps and get beat up, I don't know if I would have been strong enough to go and, you know, I mean, you got to want it, dude. You know, I remember Bill Burr said something. He's like, you know, people don't want to put in the work. You got to you got to put in fucking work. If you want to get great at this, this is not just going, doing a spot, drinking, having fun. That's bullshit. Right. That's for fucking half-steppers. That's for people that just don't take this shit seriously. If you want to get good at this, you have to be willing. You got to leave and get on planes and go and run sets and go back to the hotel and write down what worked and what didn't work and you know, me and Burr were talking about it, and he was like, a lot of people aren't willing to do the work. And the work is a lot more than just it's like I said, it's travel, it's writing, it's getting up early,
it's work,
doing radio, it's work.
It's not play.
Doing a podcast, getting people to, you know, to hear you and listen to you. It's a lot of work. And I got to tell you, man, I think I wanted to do this. I think I would have, but I think that doing it this way, it made me stronger. It made me better. You know, it made me better. And again, you gotta. I mean, I know people that get depressed and they pity themselves and they do drugs.
Right.
You know, they're like, oh, well, I'm down, so I'm gonna do drugs. And I don't want to shit on people that have addiction because they're trying to get out of their depression, but you kind of got to fight it head on and clear headed and beat it that way. Otherwise, you're going to die because you're going to be an addict and you're going to die.
Well, there was something my brother said to me years ago when I was going through a depression, a down point with something. And he had asked me when the thing had happened. He goes, well, if you get back to where you want to be, can you be grateful that this happened? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I was, what do you mean grateful that this happened? It's a horrible thing. And he goes, well, you have to understand, it's like an Eastern philosophy way of thinking. It's just, he goes, you have to understand that if you get to where you want to be, then you have to know in that moment that everything that came before had to happen for you to get here.
Yes.
So you have to be grateful for everything that happened, the good and the bad.
Well, Giannis Pappas, great comic, great friend of mine, he was talking today. He used to do a sports show, and he interviewed, he was saying today, he interviewed Barry Larkin, who was a longtime shortstop for the Cincinnati Reds. And Barry Larkin's a Hall of Famer. Okay, this is a legendary man, legendary Major League Baseball player. Like I said, he was a shortstop for years and made it to the Hall of Fame, which is incredible. And he said, he goes, you know, what people don't understand about life is like baseball. Like, it's like in baseball, you're failing 70% of the time.
Right.
Right. To bat 300, you're failing 70% of the time. It's way more failing than it is good. But when you take the good, you gotta relish. You gotta enjoy that, and you gotta understand that there is that 70%. You know, to think about that, to be considered a decent baseball player, you gotta fail 70% of the time.
Absolutely.
And it's the same thing in life. It's like you know, a lot of screwed up shit. Like, I put it into perspective, man. And this is hard. My mother has a friend who lost her daughter, young, and it's brutal and it's awful. And I'm sitting back there and I'm worrying, like, what the fuck are we worried about? What are you worried about? You know, these people, there are people dying, man. There's people starving. There's people dying. We have an opportunity to do what we love and have fun. And if you put in the work, you're going to, you know, so you got to look at it like that too, you know. And I know, again, all the corny cliche shit happens for a reason. Right. That somebody said that, I was like, hey, I don't mean to be, no, it's like that's when when the corny shit comes out, it's because it's corny because it's been said. Yeah. And it's worked. Like last night we were talking, ignorance is depressed people are kind of a little smarter. Yeah. Because we understand that, and I'm not depressed always, but I think smarter people can see things, and ignorance is bliss. Absolutely. There's another corny cliche thing, but ignorance is bliss.
It's almost like the corny stuff is the real stuff. And and that's the what is it? The resistance in you. God, that's fucking corny. I don't need to listen to that. No. That's the shit you need to listen to. You need
that's
to believe
a great point, Josh. I was just thinking that it's almost like people don't want to listen to shit that's smart. Like, yeah, I get it.
You find a way to dismiss it.
Yeah, find a way to dismiss it. It's like, no, how about you take it for a second? How about you fucking listen to it? Because great people have said it many times. So maybe it's corny to you, but like, there's a reason why the most successful people in the world kind of say the same shit in their autobiographies, right? When you look at like all of these billionaires, or you look at these people like Mark Cuban, if you sat down with Mark Cuban, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you sat down with another billionaire who's in Mark Cuban's circle, it's going to be really similar, right? And I'm talking about even similar from when they had nothing. It's going to be similar for like what they wanted to do, what they saw, and how they did it. And you're right, people don't want to, you know, for many
because
reasons.
then you have to own it.
Then you have to
You know
own
what I
it,
mean?
and people don't want to own it. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're nailing it, Josh.
Oh, look at me. I should quit my, I'll just become a self-help comedy
No,
podcaster.
it'll be a podcast of just old quotes.
That's
You'll
what-
just go, ignorance is bliss. This episode,
That's
ignorance
right.
is.
Yeah, and we'll put the Instagram pictures, like the little quotes of the day. Feel better. Those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't want. Well,
Right.
it's like there's no context on that one.
Yeah.
Whenever I do these interviews, I love my audience wants to know more about, you know, I love that we started off with celebrating this huge, and it is a huge success. It really is, and I can't wait to see it. And I'm just before we move on, I want to say I'm honored to have been invited down.
Thanks for coming, man.
Dude. It was great. Even just everything at the after party, dude. That was so surreal for me to see, like, just the amount of iconic people that were there, and again to support my friend on his big night. You know what I mean, I'm like, they're friends of yours, obviously very close people that you're with, but I'm just going like that's so huge. I wanted to say this earlier, and you know what? I think it's going to be back to that corny thing, but I want to say, you were saying how big you are in Canada. I have to say, all kidding aside, that you're such a genuine dude.
Oh,
You know what I
thank
mean?
you.
Like, just such an honest, good person. Like last night, everybody that was there, you know, now obviously we'd had a few, but you
Yeah.
were just, everyone you saw, like, I love you, thank you so much for coming. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Like, how many people are going to watch, especially comics, right? Where you just give them an excuse to throw a line back in your face, but just, hey man, I love you, thanks for coming. Like, just the amount of appreciation and graciousness that you had last night. Like, yeah, you were done, it was an after party, but you were still just, thank you so much. Like, you made everyone feel, you know, appreciated for being there.
and
Like,
it
you were
was
so gracious.
It was appreciated. It really is.
And I think that's one of the reasons that you're so popular in Canada, as a very polite, loving, happy, peaceful people.
Yeah, except you got your friends sitting in the dark. I mean, could you,
Yeah, well, that's what happens, all right? I was going to leave them in the car, so that's an upgrade. But
No, Canada, like Canada people, just it's so cool and laid back, and I kind of have that vibe of like I am very laid back, so I kind of have like you. If I would have let you two pick dinner tonight, we would have been still looking at menus. We'd have been looking at menus.
Because we couldn't make the decision. We're in your home. You're like, what do you guys want? I'm like,
I could have said anything. I'd be like, you guys
to
want
be
to
invited back. That's what I want. I want to be invited back. So you order whatever.
I could have been like, listen, there's this great piles, like they just give you piles of caviar, all different fish eggs. You guys would be like, I could do that. I can
Whatever you like. I don't know what that is. I haven't heard of it. That's an aisle they don't let me in the grocery store.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like in Canada, they see you because there's a lot of like right now there's a lot of like aggressive comedy. I don't even know if that's the right term. We say this, but there's a lot of great comics who are not necessarily accessible to everybody. They find their niches.
Yeah.
And I would say that like I said, you're a great comic. You're not like, well, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. You're being yourself, and you're being honest. And honesty matters. People can tell the difference between honesty and disingenuous and things like that. And or contrived can be funny, but when you're being honest and you're putting yourself out there, people are like, all right, that's courageous, and it's really easy to connect with.
Honesty and realness is not, you can't fuck with it.
Right.
Those are two things that you can't, listen, you could knock fake, you could knock lies, you could knock frauds, you could knock, oh, that's funny, but like that's a character, or like that's really, like, you could say that, and I wouldn't do that if somebody has a character and they think it's funny. But you can say one thing that you really can't go at, not even just in comedy, in life, real honesty. If you could look somebody in the eyes and tell them something that's from your heart and you mean it, you can't fuck with that, because
Right.
you're just like, it is what it is. Take it or leave it. It's true and it's honest. And that's how, and that's the best comedy to me.
Well, can I share something with you, just because we're sharing corny stuff, but this
Sure.
is something that I think applies here, and I don't know if I've ever told it before on my podcast. If I have, well, fuck, I'm sorry, but I'm here with my friend. Okay, it's day after graduation. We're having a good time. I heard one of those great speakers say that people need to divorce their vehicles and marry their virtues. And what that means is, if you're already familiar, I apologize, but just
No. Go. I'm listening. I like
so vehicles are things like relationships, career, money, possessions, things like that. Because a lot of people will define themselves by their job or their relationship. So for example, in the particular talk I was listening to, someone's relationship ended and they're like, my whole life's over, everything I had was in that relationship. And what they were saying about the vehicles, money, career, relationships, is that every vehicle carries with it the fear of loss.
Yeah.
So the idea is that, you know, if you put all of your stock in, you know, your relationship, well, it can end. Not even necessarily because of a, you know, forgive me, a breakup or divorce, but people die. You know, just a moment ago, you were talking about, you know, the loss of a child. Like that's not the relationship ending because they want it to.
Sure.
But the thing is relationships can end. You can lose your job. So if you're this great comic and that's who you are and that's who you present, well, that can end. Right? You know, if you're rich, your country can devalue your money. Now it's not worth anything. But the other line was people need to divorce their vehicles and marry their virtues. And virtues are things that can never be taken to you, like honesty, integrity, respect. And the reason I'm bringing this up right now is, like I said, we've only known each other for, you know, a year and some. And already, like I said, you're a very virtuous person. That's what I was trying to bring out in just talking about the party last night, is just the amount of respect and integrity and graciousness that you showed. Like, it doesn't matter what happens to you in your life. It doesn't matter if, you know, the house burns down, the relationship ends, you know, you're not a comic anymore. That's not going to change you. No one's going to think, oh, well, now he's not that. Like, I see you as a I don't see the other stuff because you have defined yourself by those virtues. And I think that's what people connect and like so much about you, is that you're not your car, you're not your bank account, the Fight Club shit.
Right.
You know, you are Paul Virzi, who's a fucking honest, respectable, and super funny dude.
Yeah, I apprate that, man. It means a lot.
Sorry, I'm not trying to hit you over the head with. I'm trying to make out with you right now a little bit. But,
you Canadians.
No,
that's
how we get you.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like if somebody's honest and loyal, like, you know, that's one thing I look at people. Like, two things that really turn me off about people is if they're selfish and like cheap, because that means that you don't want to get like that. Those are two things that just like overly selfish people and like just cheap, and they just want to hold their money. And I'm going to give the waiter the least amount I can give, or the most amount. Like I'm giving him just like what's okay, what percentage. I don't like people like that, because to me that tells a lot about a person. Right. You know. Now listen, if you don't have money. Like I get it. If you don't have money, but I'm talking about people that can give another $2, but they don't. That's a big. It's not about the $2. We're not even talking about $2 here. The $2 means nothing. It's the whole bigger picture that you're not willing to give somebody to make them feel better, even $2 extra to make their job better. That says a lot about you, and you know, and selfish is just that goes without saying. Right. So yeah, and I think like opposite of that. Just like guys like Sal Vicano, who was there last night, like that guy is like, you know, you're talking about one of the nicest individuals, like, you know, just buying trays of shots for people. It's just like, he just wants you to have a good time. And he gets life, that guy. There are certain people, he just get it. It's like, hey man, come on. And they're really genuine, honest people. And they're the ones you want to surround yourself with. 1,000%. And that's the thing. You know, we talked about the special, and that's great, but you want to know something? And that was a great night, and it's a night that I'm gonna remember forever. But I got to do it with people that we're talking about now. I got to do it with people that do have those virtues. I got to do it with people that are honest and people that love each other. And that's what you surround yourself with. And if you're around that, you can't lose. If you're around, there's a lot of something happened with me with the I'll tell you on the show, because I haven't told you. Are you okay with that? Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah. I mean, I've never asked because I know it's personal. No. Things like that, so what happened was I was going to shoot my special with a very big company. I don't want to say any names just because the biggest company that does them. So, you know, if you guys want to do the math, you guys can do the math. But one of the biggest companies that does specials, and they've done specials for every big name that's in comedy, period. Okay? And they were going to do mine. I was going to do it in Brooklyn on May 2nd. And it was a smaller venue. It was just, they're going to make the place look like a bigger venue. It was probably like 350 people, and, and I didn't want to do it in Brooklyn, but I bent. And I didn't want to do it on a Tuesday night, and I bent. And, and all this stuff. But then contract things started happening. And, my manager was going back and forth. And, okay, we fixed this. Okay, we fixed that. And going back and forth with lawyers and all this and that. And then all of a sudden, I'm running it down in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and my manager came down. I was like, hey, can we talk after this? And, we were sitting there eating sushi, and we're going. And she's like, yeah, something in the contract came out. And basically, that company sold. That company basically already had a deal in the contract that said it was going to go to NBC's affiliate, NBC's online streaming, which was CISO. Okay. And I found out, and we were like, no. So the executive producer, Pete Davidson, and some other people were like, no, that's not what we have in plan. We have a plan to shoot a special and sell it, and say, or take it to market. That's what the plan that we're going to do. Now, the company that I was going to do it with, they have deals to sell it, and they do all of them, so they can get him sold.
Right.
But so we were like, no, we don't want to do that, and they just didn't get back to us, and all of a sudden, I got executive producer calling me, I got my agent calling me, I was like, we got to get on the phone, something's going on. They sold this thing to CISO for like $50,000, and I'm like, well, I didn't sign anything, and I don't want to do that. And they're like, you're gonna walk away, 8 days before, and I was like, I think I might have to. And the agency was on board, and Bill Burr was like, man, come on, you gotta swing at the plate here, you gotta. And I walked from it. And they said I was okay with the deal. There was a lot of things that happened. They said I was okay with the deal when I wasn't okay with the deal. There was a lot of things that just weren't cool, and there were things that were just I couldn't accept, and there was things that, quite frankly, weren't 100% open and honest. And I walked from it, and that's when all the love that you saw last night came in. Then they were like, it was almost like the cavalry's coming. It's like, no, that's not right. That's not the way that it should be. We had a plan. We had a plan in place, and I don't think it could have gone better. And I don't think I think it worked out great. So
well, and there's new bits that came in the time too. Some more workshopping and training.
That huge. And I'll tell you something. If I did it May 2nd, it would not even have been close to last night. I think I would have done a decent job, but I don't think it would have been last night.
So it's like one of those things, as much as, like we were saying before, is like, so last night was so good. Can you be grateful that, that backhanded, slimy kind of, I mean, it was all part of it.
Again, let's go back to, the you should name this episode Corny and Cliche because
that's what I do. We're solving the world right now.
Because it was, I believe that, it was, things happen for a reason, and I believe that or you can make things. Maybe if they don't happen for a reason, you see something and you can make it happen, or whatever. But I believe in something, some kind of karma or destiny, or you could good things happen and everything happens for a reason. I believe in that. I do. I believe that, and I think that the way things happened, this was supposed to go down, and
or there's something to be learned from everything. Even that, if someone's like, "Well, it's not a spiritual," okay, well then take back the control if you don't believe in any of that stuff, and just know that there's something that can be learned from every experience.
And this is something too that comedians, we always have a thing where, oh my God, I have an opportunity, I'm gonna say yes. And I'm going to say yes to that because now I have this and I've wanted this, and people will prey on that. They'll prey on you going, well, that guy didn't have a special. He wants a special. So we're going to give him all this stuff, but we're going to do it our way. Yeah. And we're going to snake him this way, or we'll take money this way, or we'll do so. He's going to say yes. He's going to say yes. One of the best things I ever did in this business was look at one of the biggest companies in the world for comedy specials and tell them no and walk away from them. Yeah. And people were like, "You did what?" And I said, "Yeah, I did because I'm not doing that."
Well, and imagine what that made them think too.
Oh,
do you know what I'm saying? Like to put them in place, because I remember that you had posted that, and I was just saying, well, that's great for you to do that, because it shows, because some people would be scared.
Yeah,
they would want to say no because they know it's not right, but to go, yeah, but they're the biggest one. Like, what am I going to do? Burn my bridges, whatever.
Right.
And you and all the people around you were like, yeah, it can still be done. You can still do it without you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't, just because you're the biggest.
And this was nothing against CISO. This was I just wanted my options.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that CISO was into me and was willing to put up, to pay for it and to get it on their network. I just needed to go. I needed to shop it. I needed other networks to see it because I want people to see my hour. And if it went to CISO, that would have been great. Now they're done.
Is CISO done?
Yeah. I guess they're closing up shop at the end. Yeah. So so that probably wouldn't have worked out now. But it was nothing against them. It was just, it was, and my age, and my manager even said, Paul, this is nothing against, like, so this is fine. Like, Paul just we just want to get this thing out there and see what our options are. Before I told a joke, you sell it. I mean, so.
Yeah, that's when you know that it's not a partnership. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. It's not a partnership at all. Like a partnership is, hey, they're willing to give 50 or 60 or whatever. I don't even know the exact number. They're willing to give, this amount of money. They're willing to give you $75,000 for the special. They don't even need to see it. We're just going to sell it. We do business with them. They know who you are. They know you're funny. They're going to pay for it. Okay, what do you think about that? That's what I would have wanted.
Right.
Instead of just looking at it in a contract like 2 weeks before I'm shooting the thing going, oh, that's where my special is going to go? And then the day after, the craziest thing is the day after I was going to shoot. The day after I was going to shoot on May 2nd, the CEO of CISO stepped down. So I would have saw that. So I would have shot this thing, and I'd be like, they would have probably painted a nice picture. Can you
imagine?
And then I would have looked at that and been like, oh, the head of the thing, I guess this isn't going to be good. Is anybody going to see this? So, and you got to go with your gut. But any comedian listening to this right now, I'm telling you, one of the most powerful things in your box of tools, other than your jokes, is saying no to people. Okay, they're gonna try to get you on gigs that you should be getting paid more. They're gonna be trying to tell you this. They're gonna be trying to, I'll give you a fucking sandwich and a beer. You come down, it's great. And meanwhile,
exposure bucks.
Meanwhile, there's about 500 people there who pay good money, and you could easily be getting money. And and now listen, if you're up and coming, you take the gig, you take the sandwich and the beer. I'm talking about when you start to move up and you start to headline. Or, saying yes to everything, it's one of the craziest things. And when people know you're going to say no, and this is the other crazy thing, when people know you're going to say no, more people want you. Like the craziest thing I said, after I told them, people were coming at me like, hey, man, I want to get you on this show. I want to get you. It was like all these things because they knew that if I was coming, it was going to be something it was going to be a real deal thing, and I'm not going to fuck around, and I'm going to go about my business like a professional, hoping and knowing that you're going to go about yours,
right?
And that's why I'm going to do it. And so
you set the standard for yourself too. It's like, yeah, what I do is it's special, it's unique, and if you want it, you pay for it.
Yeah,
I have a talent, and it's worth something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Jason used to say that to me early on when I was starting to get paid work from him, and very early in my career. And we will, if that's okay, transition. I'd like to ask you about sort of your beginnings too.
Sure.
But when I was new, if I would do a free show or something like that, he would just say to me afterwards, "Okay, now I know what you're worth." And it was that simple. I was like, "Oh, I don't want to look at it that way."
Yeah, I remember one great comedian was offered thousands of dollars once for a gig, thousands, for like 20 minutes or like 30 minutes, thousands of dollars. And they were like, no. And I remember saying, what, you're not taking thousands? And he was like, no, because then they're going to think that's my price because I want more than that. And and at the time, the comedian I'm talking about, I don't want to talk for his, but was worth more.
Right.
Was worth more than the thousands. Because even though it's whatever, let's say somebody's going to give you 3,000-4,000.
Right.
But you're making 30,000 on a weekend. So then people go, oh, no, you could get this person. You could get this person for like, even though they're making $25K a show, they just took this deal from so-and-so who only gave them $4,000.
Oh, yeah.
And when that person said that, they were like, they'll think that's my price. I was like, that's brilliant. It's not greedy. It's brilliant.
Yep.
It's not, you know what I mean? You got to know. You got to know when to, but you just can't be treated shitty.
And things travel on referral too in this business. You know what I mean? Like, you do a show for this company, this function, this corporation. We had this thing, you know what I mean? So again, like you said, they're going to figure out that's the price. Hey, they did it for this much.
Yeah.
We contacted last year. They said it was like, I fully get it. And that's why people think, comics think that, you're going to do it with this one person and no one's ever going to find out or whatever. It's out there.
Yeah.
So ask for what you're worth.
Absolutely.
So again, like I said, another book, and congratulations again. I could say it a million times and still feel like it's, but yeah, I'm so happy for you, buddy. And like I said, so for anyone who's listening who just wanted to hear about how last night went, that's about, at least we'll probably get back to it maybe once or twice more. I'm sure it'll come back because it was too fantastic. It's at the tip of our tongue still. But so for anyone who wanted to know how that went, now I'm going to do what I always do with my guests, and I want to just give you a little bit more background. The height of his success at this point, but of course for any comics out there going, well, yeah, that's great, and he's huge and he does all these amazing things. Well, he started at one point just like you guys did. So I wanted to ask you, like I ask everyone, how did you get started in comedy? What got you started doing stand-up?
I always, as a little kid, was just crazy intrigued by it. And Eddie Murphy, Eddie Murphy Raw changed my life, made me want to do it. My dad took me to see it when I was 10. totally against my mother and grandmother's wishes because of the language. And I was like, Dad, you got to take me. And he probably took me selfishly for him, but because we had visitation days on Sunday because my parents were divorced, and I locked in, man. And then just like Rodney Dangerfield, my dad also took me and my brother to see Rodney Dangerfield, Radio City Music Hall. And I was a kid. By the end, I was like sleeping, but I just remember being around it. And it was awesome. And then people always thought I was funny in high school telling stories. And we'd always joke and be like, man, we're gonna go down to the city. Like me and this one kid would go, we're just gonna go down to the city and get you an agent, just and like I thought I would just go
the agent store.
Yeah, like I was just gonna go. He's funny. Watch him do something. I was just gonna do something like in the office, and he'd go, you know what, I'm gonna, but a buddy of mine was working, I think doing a construction job or something, and I think it was construction, but he was in Woodstock, New York, and he said, there's this bar that does a Tuesday night open mic. Why don't you do it? And I drove out there with him and a couple people, and I did like 5 of the worst minutes ever. Like, I mean, I had jokes like the cigarette. I didn't even write. I just was like, yeah, the cigarette pack says may cause cancer. It does cause cancer. Like it was like ridiculous. And like, yeah. And I remember a heckler saved me. Because,
really?
Yeah, I was doing a joke about how there's no.
They all
Asian.
think they're saving us, by the way.
I know, but like this guy actually
actually
bailed
did.
me out because I was like, yeah, there's no Asian rappers, and like I didn't know where to go after that. So then this heckler just comes out and goes, dude, kung fu shit, and he just starts doing this thing, and I was like, all right, like, and it was awful, and it didn't go well. So I remember I felt bad, and I walked right up to the. I mean, it wasn't awful, but it was definitely not good at all.
How old were you?
21.
21 your first time.
I was 21.
Did you bring friends or family or anybody like that? Or?
No, so what happened, I just went with a couple people. So
Okay.
what happened was I walked up, and this wasn't an open mic for stand-up. This was an open mic.
Oh, so like music open
So like,
mic.
you could do, you could go read a poem after watching. It was an open mic for,
Okay.
Music, anything. And I remember, I'm pretty sure, yes, it was. I was the only comedian. I think I was the only comedian. And from what I saw, and I remember going to the booker, and I said, you do this every Tuesday? And he goes, yeah. And I said, I'm coming next week. Put me on for next week. I'm coming next week. And he was like, okay. And I wrote. And then a couple of carloads of friends came.
Okay.
And it went unbelievable. I might have done like 15 minutes of like, and I mean, if I would look at it now, it's probably absolutely horrid. It's like just awful.
Oh yeah. Well, it's that's whole I can't watch myself. I had my original set and I can't get through it. I can't.
Yeah.
I wanted to show my girlfriend. It was before her and I were together. I tried to sit her down and watch it, and I had to turn it off. I should have just walked out of the room and let her finish watching. I turned it off and I cringed.
Yeah, it was probably bad, but I remember it went well. And then one local guy made me feel good. He walked up and he goes, much better than last week. Some older man.
Oh, cool.
And that made me feel good. And then I was like, all right. So then like all of a sudden now I'm like, I could be in movies. Like just, the delusion. And I remember calling clubs in New York City. And one was like New Talent Night. And this guy ended up being a snake, but he called me and he goes, hey, Paul, got your message. We do a New Talent Night. You got to bring 3 paying customers and all this stuff. And I remember I was like, oh, man, yeah, somebody told me you called. I almost fell out of the, I almost jumped out of the shower. And he's like, well, we like when you shower. He's just awful. Anyway, I thought that was funny at the time. I was just so psyched that I got called out on like this New York City club. And I went down with 3 friends and they paid. I was never more nervous. They told me I'd go on around 9:30, probably went on around 11:15.
Wow.
There's like fucking 80 comedians who have 3 paying friends in there. You're sitting there. And I went there and I did a joke. I was like, my mom called me jerking off and I had like my shirt over my head. I had my shirt over my head and I'm like doing this and I killed. But so then it just started to do bringers. And then all of a sudden I ran into a friend that I'm no longer, we don't really hang out anymore or talk for years. But he's like, man, you're funny, do this. And he was actually, his name is, well, I don't even want to get into that.
Totally up to you.
Yeah. No, I'll say it. Why wouldn't I say it? His name is Bill Scully. He was absolutely hilarious, and we just kind of drifted apart because of the business and all kinds of stuff like that, and where we were going directions. And it was just, but he was like, man, you're funny. You need to do this. And I remember I was kind of not taking it seriously. I was like, I'd go on vacation. He'd be like, listen, dude, I can't hang out with you anymore if you're not going to get into this. Like he was like a friend like that, and he's like, hey, this woman, Niger Wright. Oh my God, I haven't said that forever. This woman, Niger Wright. She was trying to put together like comics,
Like a little circle kind of
like a little circuit of her own, and great woman, and Niger Wright. And I remember he's like, yeah, we're gonna go down to New York Comedy Club like 4 o'clock and audition, and it was kind of a black circuit thing, but like they wanted to have a couple of white guys. And I went up, and like right when I went up, she started laughing. She's like, I knew I was going to put you on this thing. So she put together this, like, you know, it was an urban show. And, you know, I was like one of the few white guys on the black show, and I killed. And then people were like, hey, man, come and do this. So then I started doing black rooms. And then I started getting good in black rooms. And then I was like, you got to get him on this, and I'll get him on this. And then, like, I started, a lot of, like, bigger black comedians were like, you know, this dude is funny. So, and, like, I mean, I had some unbelievable stories where it was literally like 8 Mile shit. It was like Eminem 8 Mile, where I'd walk in. I remember I drove from upstate New York, okay, hour and a half to Uptown Comedy Club in Harlem, New York, down by the 125th Street. And they were like, yeah, you're going to do 5 minutes. No, you're going to do 6 minutes. You're not getting paid. And I did it. And it was 250 black audience members that wanted to boo anybody that wasn't good, probably. And I went up and I did my thing, and it was only 5 minutes, and I got no money. And I remember going home in my car, my little Toyota Tercel, four-cylinder, whatever. And I was like, man, I just did it. I did it. And then all of a sudden it was like, you felt that, like, I had to do it. I remember I did Wendy Williams, the girl who's got the TV show. She was a big-time radio personality here. Okay. And there was a Laugh Factory here. I don't know if many people know that. Some people...
I think I'd heard
you know the Laugh Factory in L.A., but there was a Laugh Factory for very short-lived in Times Square. Okay, same thing, the whole logo, like the Laugh Factory, and it was in Times Square, and there was something called the Wendy Williams Comedy Experience, and it was a very, very urban room, and it was, you know, all black audience members. It was a black show, so that's what it was. And monster host, this dude Capone, and Wendy Williams would sit by the side of the stage with her little clique, and there'd be like, you know, her little, like, you know, and these comics would go up, and it was crazy. It was packed, and monster after monster. And I remember I was there, and Dean Edwards, you know Dean Edwards?
I don't.
Dean Edwards was on Saturday Night Live for a couple of years. He does one of the best Denzel Washington impressions.
Okay.
He does a lot.
I might recognize him.
If you put in Dean Edwards, you'll see he was 2 seasons on SNL, and he was just a comic who was just, you know, really, he had a lot of heat, and he was doing well. Or this was right when he left SNL, though. And he's doing this, and like the place is going nuts. And you know, like black crowds, when you kill, it's like it's people jumping, and everyone's going nuts. And somebody goes, "Hey man, you're next," but he's like really killing. Do you not want to follow that? Do you want to just kind of? And I knew, and part of me, I'm not gonna lie, part of me was like, you know, it would be easier to not, but I know I'm not living with myself. And then I got challenged, and I'm like, fuck that, I'm following that, and I had to follow it, and I followed it, and it went well. It took me about a minute and a half. I remember, like a minute, and then I just started killing the room, and she's laughing. I see Wendy Williams laughing, and the whole crowd's laughing. A couple people wanted to hate on me at the beginning, and I ended up turning it, and I remember leaving. I felt great, and it was raining, and my car got towed. So people were like, "Yeah, you were so funny on the show and everything." And then I went, and then my car got towed, and I had to go to the place in New York City to pick it up. It cost me like $250. But I was doing things like that because the mainstream comedy clubs, you know, weren't putting me up. And then I had now I had the itch. You know, now I'm like, I'm doing these rooms. I'm gonna prove to people I'm funny. I'm doing hard rooms. And something happened where I worked at a club that you had to bark in Times Square. You had to give tickets to tourists, you know?
Is that what they call it, the barking? I thought those were the bringer shows.
No, a bringer show means you just pull up and like 4 friends pay.
Okay. Yeah. I just thought it was you had to bring people. So I thought the barking was you effectively bringing people. Here's the ticket that my initials are on so they know which comic sent you that way.
Oh, you know
That's
what
I thought
but they did that too.
Okay.
They would do that too, where they would give you, and you would just, you know, but you see people in Times Square, hey, this comedy club. It's not there anymore.
I know where it is. The one day I was in New York, a guy was like, hey, great comedy show around the corner. And I was like,
yeah, but.
I said no.
But but I was like, hey, you want to see a show? You want to see a show? And like then I would get sets that night. And I remember working with a comic. I'm not going to mention names, but I remember working with a couple of comics at the club when I was doing that. Like that was one of the first rooms that I kind of was like, you know, and you acted like you were in a club, but you were a barker, and but you had spots, and you were doing it with other comics, and now who have all moved up. But there was something called the Las Vegas Comedy Festival. Now they had one that like was big, but then it went away.
Okay.
But then a new guy started this thing. So 2003, there was a Las Vegas Comedy Festival. And they were auditioning in all kinds of cities. And New York was one of them, and then Boston, and then Chicago. Okay.
Is this person still running festivals?
No.
Okay.
This person.
I'm just trying to. I had one name in my head.
No, this
I would not ask you to do it. Just to
no, this person is not running festivals anymore. But it was, and like you stayed at like the Stardust Hotel if you got picked, and
right.
Stardust isn't there anymore. But you'd stay there and you would do whatever. You do shows. They put you in a room, whatever. But it was very new and whatever. But it's Vegas and like people were auditioning for it. So I missed the audition. I didn't go to the audition in New York for whatever reason. And then I found out who won, and I was like, I could kind of compete with that guy. I think I'm funnier than that guy, to be honest. I'd be lying. I was like, I think I can. And I missed it. So I go, where's the next one? I go, oh, the next one's tonight in Boston. It's too late. So I go, when's the next one? And like, the next one's in Chicago tomorrow. So I had like 20-something hours to get there, and I wasn't flying. So I was like, I think I'm going to get in the car with my brother and drive 15 hours to Chicago for a 3-minute audition to get in a festival. And I did. And one of my friends was like, I remember it was like, I think that kid Bill Scully was like, would you have waited for like, I wanted me to like drive him, but I couldn't. I could, like me and my brother just got in the car. I remember we just got in the car and we had to go, and we had like, took 15 hours, got there at, not even kidding, got there about 4:30 in the morning to Chicago. And like, Stacy my wife was a big reason. She kind of reminded me, she goes, are you and your brother going to go to Chicago? Are you going to go to that audition? Are you going to go to that? I go, you know what? I think we're going to rent a car and do it. And I called him, and we got in a car at 2 o'clock that afternoon, and we drove to Chicago and got in about 5 o'clock in the morning. And I had to be, but luckily we stayed in a hotel where the audition was.
Okay, smart.
And the audition was at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I went to bed at 5 in the morning after being in the car. And I was so excited. I was really nervous. I thought there was going to be all these comics, but this was the second day. And apparently they probably went through like a bunch the day before. And now there's like 12 people waiting to go in. I go last of the day, and there's just 3 people there, judges. One was a comic, one was an agent, and one was the guy running the festival. And I stand in this little tiny room on this thing. I'm exhausted. I just drove to Chicago. I could barely keep my eyes open. I'm standing on this tape. I did a couple of bits, did an impression of my grandmother, and they laughing their ass off. They loved it. And as I walk out, I hear the lady go, loved them. And I found out that the Yankees were in town that day. So me and my brother go to Chicago White Sox game, and we watched the Yankees. We were so tired we had to leave in the 7th inning. We just could not hack it anymore. And on the car ride back, my wife, girlfriend at the time, wife now Stacy, called me crying, going, oh my God, the festival posted the winner of you won Chicago. And I told my brother, I'm not telling you this for the podcast. I'm not telling you this to just, and I actually just got the chills because I never told anybody. Oh my God, this is going to be a great podcast, by the way.
Dude, that's what everyone keeps saying, because I just ask questions. I'm like, well, this is an interview, right? You're supposed to, and everyone's like, dude, you interview good. I'm like,
no, you do.
I'm just asking what I would
know.
No, this is
going to be a good I do a lot of podcasts, and this is going to be a good episode, I think. So, but I promise you I'm not making this up. On the way to Chicago with my brother, I said this to him. I said, I have a feeling. I'm not going to tell you what I'm feeling, but I'm feeling something. And in that moment, I knew I was going to win. I'm not even kidding you. It was one of the weirdest premonitions I've ever had. I got this feeling inside.
You got to hear. It's side note. You have to hear Savitz. He had a story just like this. I'm excited to hear it. But just that feeling. And same thing. Comedy competition.
And on your show.
Yeah, like last week when his episode,
Jesus,
same thing. So I have chills, just all these stories of these feelings.
Dude,
I'm going to trust that feeling if I ever get it, because this is a pattern.
I was sitting in the car, and I don't know if it was just because I was like, you know what, I'm doing this, and I'm driving, and I really remember saying, Christian, to my brother, I said, I got a feeling right now, but I'm not going to tell you, but something. And I was overwhelmed with this feeling of that I'm going to do it and win. And then I did. And so I drove 15 hours for a 3-minute audition, and I got it. They flew me out to Vegas. It was definitely a newer thing. I mean, they had some, big people at the award show and stuff, but to just be flown out to Vegas because I did that was amazing. And then just slowly but surely, like getting into clubs and just keep going. And it was just kind of like a snow. Hey, do this show. Hey, you want to do this show? Hey, can you get up on here? Yeah. You want to, and then people would put you up. Hey, man, I'm producing a show. Why don't you come and do it? And it just started to then you started to get New York City spots, and then this and that. And then I had clips, and I got a manager. I sent out 5 managers a 6-minute set that I did. Another thing I did, I drove to Milwaukee with my brother for $350 for a weekend to feature in a packed club. but I did it because I just wanted to see if I could do it. And I got a really good piece out of it, and I sent it. And one manager, my first manager, Tony Camacho, goes, "Hey, yeah, pretty good." And he started getting me stuff. And in 2005, I opened for Bobby Kelly on Thanksgiving Eve 2005, but then he left, and they goes, "Who's coming in for the weekend?" And it was Bill Burr. And that's the weekend I met Bill Burr. I met Bill Burr Thanksgiving weekend of 2005. So it was, right like the last week of November. And I met Bill, and we just kind of, Bill saw me do well. The first time I ever worked with Bill, if you want to hear this is the first time that me and Bill ever interacted, ever. Which is crazy to say considering he's like my family now. He's my son's godfather. He's my best friend. He's my mentor. And the fact that guy wanted to executive produce my special. And
you filmed the special.
What's that?
I'm joking.
Yeah, so
like we haven't talked about it.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
The fact that guy was like wanted to put his name behind it, and now I'm thinking about the first time I ever met this man, and it was crazy. So this was Bill's, and this is another crazy thing. This was his first big weekend alone, for him. Like this was like a weekend, it's like Bill Burr's weekend. Okay. There was a line around the block at Rascals Comedy Club in Montclair, New Jersey. The room seated 402 people, and it was sold out. And it's just this huge box of just Jersey people, right? And it was all Opie and Anthony fans. It was all big-time comedy fans, and they're hearing Bill on Opie and Anthony in the morning. And Bill is a up-and-coming comic. He was on Chappelle's show.
Right.
He did a HBO half hour. Like it was just his whole storm just hit. The Bill Burr storm hit comedy. And there's a line around the block, and I'm beyond nervous. I was nervous the Wednesday night with Bobby. So I wasn't as nervous then because that was nuts. But now I'm like, it's another level of nerves. And still not as crazy, but still there. And I'm going, oh my God, this is nuts. And this is this guy's weekend. And I go up, and I was so scared. And I did some material on my dad, and I crushed. And he wasn't there. So now I'm like, oh, this is a great opportunity. And Marion Groden hosted. You know Charles Groden? His daughter hosted.
Oh, okay.
And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but I see Ed Kavanaugh was the manager. Ed works now at Gotham in New York City. And I'm like, oh, what better time to get introduced after that set? So I see Ed here and like to the left, and I see Bill to the right, and I go, oh, this is great. I'm going to go up to Ed and say, Ed, can you introduce me to the headliner? Can you introduce me to Bill? And right as I go to get Ed's attention, somebody taps him, and he's all busy, and he turns around, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'll meet Bill later. And I turn around, and I start going downstairs to the bar to get something to eat, and I feel a tap on my shoulder. And I turn around, and it's Bill. And he goes, hey, man, were you the other guy on the show? I go, yeah. He goes, oh, dude, you ripped. He goes, I didn't see it. He goes, I heard it, but I'm going to stand by the stage of your next set. And he's like, no pressure, joking. And I was like, wow. So then again, I went up. I had a great set. He was watching me. He's like, man, you're real funny. You got good material. At the end of the week, and this was when MySpace was big. He's like, yeah, get me on MySpace. And he's like, I'm going to refer you to this room in Jersey, the Stress Factory, which is a big room in Jersey. Sure enough, he refers me, but I also got in on my own, so it was almost like same timing, and it was like it was going to work anyway. And I did great. So I said, hey, dude, I got to tell you something. You got me in the Stress Factory, and I can't thank you enough. And my weekend went phenomenal. And I was almost over cocky, though. I was like, dude, I crushed. And, like, the headliner had a hard time. Like, I went, like, a little too hard, but it was true. But I shouldn't have been like that. And he was like, oh, that's great. You know what? Next time I work that room, you come with me. Now, fast forward 2007. So now it's like, so it was just at the end of 2006. And then 2007, he, sure enough, it's funny. I actually hit him up. Hey man, loved opening for you. I would love to open for you more. And he comes back and he goes, hey man, I got 800 people asking me that, but blah blah blah. And I knew Joe DeRosa was opening for him a lot. So I'm like, I'm never gonna work with this guy, whatever, But I would see things that he did, and and then the Philadelphia thing happened where he went on and I remember saying that's one of the most remarkable things I ever seen. And he's like, oh man, thanks. They were that was this night, and there were people that are acting like animals. But what are you gonna do? And I just remember the whole thing, and I ended up working with him again in 2007. He was like, hey, come on that thing, because he heard I did good. And once he said, oh, next time I'm there, I'll bring you, and he stuck to it. That's the type of guy he was. And we have a great weekend together, and we just started talking sports. And that was when the 2007 Patriots were the fucking best offense I ever seen. And I told him, I go, man, your Patriots are the best offense I've ever seen. It's the best offense I've ever seen. And I think he was kind of taken back that a guy from New York, was like just saying that. We had this great talk, and I think we had a drink that night. And then right around like the first time we ever talked, I got a phone call from him, and he just called me up, and he goes, yeah, you said the Patriots offense was the best you ever seen, and he just starts going in on sports, and we end up having like this 45-minute conversation. And then when we beat him in the Super Bowl, the Giants beat them in the Super Bowl, I called him drunk. And I go, hey, man, I just want to let you know, like, you guys had a great season, but it was nice to shove it. I said something that set him.
Oh, wow.
It's like it was nice to kind of shove it up the ass of Red Sox fans, but whatever. And he calls back, and he goes, you know something, Paul? He goes, you know what? I thought you were different than these dumb Jersey meatheads, but like with love.
Okay.
But like, just it wasn't like harsh. It was just like, and I'm like,
right.
Oh, so we go back and forth. Next thing you know, we just started to talk here and there, and then I remember all of a sudden I got a text one night. He's like, "Hey, you want to open for me at the Washington D.C. Improv?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then we just started to click, man, and then the rest is history. Opening for him, Carnegie Hall, open for him at Madison Square Garden, and Bill was actually instrumental in some comedy clubs in New York, because when Bill started talking about me on the podcast, and people were like, "Who is this kid?" That Bill's talking about that he's bringing around. And I was able to hey man, come. Bill's like, hey, this person, meet the booker, and then people would give me stage time, and then if I was funny, it worked,
right?
And that's the thing. So, and then just slowly, everything with a manager and opening for a guy like Bill, and doing all the connections and everybody that I met on the way up, and that's it. So it was basically like I was funny in right moments, I guess, and that's the thing. There's no, listen,
but it's the work too. Not to interrupt, but everything from the 15-hour drive to Chicago to taking chances and accepting the challenge of following that comic who's killing in the black room, going, yeah, I could put a couple other guys and let it cool off a bit, but that's the thing. So many people in comedy, like, we start doing it and it feels good. But then when we want to take it seriously, we don't want to do the things that don't feel good. And that's the chance that we could fucking bomb because we followed the hot person. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the idea that even though, maybe it's not looked at as work, but it's challenged. But the idea is you keep challenging yourself. You keep working, Yeah, who's going to drive 15 hours to do 3 minutes? Does that sound appetizing to anybody? No. But you do the shit that's not comfortable to get you to that next level.
Absolutely. And you have to... This is the truth is that you have to be willing. It's not even a matter of if you have to want it. You have to want it so bad that it's not conceivable. Like, people say, like, would you want your son or daughter to do comedy? My son and daughter, I don't want them to go through what I went through. I don't want them to fucking sleep in shitty condos. I don't want them to take long drives alone. But if they had to do it, I had to do it. Mm-hmm. I had to drive to Harlem that night and see if I'm going to get booed by this black audience. I had to do it. It wasn't even a question. Right. It was like, I'm doing this. I remember Michael Rappaport was on Bill Burr's podcast, and he goes, when I came to California to be an actor, I didn't come out here to try to get in movies. He goes, I came out here, I was going to be in movies. I was going to do it. Like, that's the thing. You have to fucking make it in your mind that this is like, somebody actually said to me once, they're like, how come you never talk about not moving up, or you never talk about failing? How come you never talk about failing? And it's like, because I'm not ignorant to the fact that I could fail. I'm not ignorant to the fact that I can't get everything that I want in this world. I'm not ignorant to that fact. But in my mind, it's like, I'm just going to keep doing this, and I'm just going to keep going up. I'm going to keep getting better. I'm going to keep writing. I'm going to keep pushing myself to be honest, and hopefully the body of work will make me achieve those things.
And you don't dwell on it, because that's what a lot of people do. Is once something bad happens, like nobody is going to just get successful without failure, because how can you even measure success if you don't know what failure is?
Yeah.
So the idea is but you don't dwell on it. And that's the hardest thing. That's hard for a lot of us is when something bad happens, you can almost use it to victimize yourself. I've done it to myself. I've done it to myself in my career. But it's about moving forward. Yes, the bad things happen. There's failures. So learn from it and move forward. You know what I mean? Just keep going. It's there. It's going to be a part of it, but learn from it.
So once I got this bug, and once I was doing this, it was like, wow, maybe I can do this. And then I did it, and I remember feeling good. And then I'm like, people are like, man, you're funny, man. And I'm like, really? Someone like, man, yeah, you're natural, you're funny. And I was like, all right, maybe I could do this. And then I wanted to be the best of the bad comics when I was a year, you know?
Okay.
So when you're 2
The
years
biggest
in,
of the small fish kind of thing?
yeah, when you're 2 years in, try to be at the top of the class of 2-year guys. When you're 5 years in, try to be at the top. So whenever you're with your class moving up, you want to be one of the tops of that class. So it went from like, wow, I'm doing stand-up. I'm standing on a stage that something Richard Pryor stood on. To then, oh, man, maybe I could get okay at this. To then, wait a minute, I might be able to get good at this. To then, this is life.
Yeah.
And that was the progression.
That's awesome, man. Like it still blows me away anytime. Just that like again, that comedy is a business, you know, that people are paying money just to hear what we have to say. It's
we're very lucky, you know, we're very lucky that we have, because I don't want to say we're smarter than people, but we have comedians are fucking opinionated, sometimes loud mouths, want to be heard, want attention, but we do it in a way that's clever, original, and people like it. And we get to be the voice of some people, what they want to say and what they're thinking, you know?
Yeah, we're kind of like the spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down, you know? Yeah. We just feed them it's truth telling, but it feels good on the ears kind of thing. That's great. And I appreciate you telling me the story, because like, it's great to watch. And like I said, I already met you when you were infinitely successful in my view. And then to see the special culminate and see how great that was outstanding. Is there anything that you'd like to plug going forward? I mean, like, you've got the Virzi Effect podcast. So anyone who happens to be my listeners, please, Paul's a great friend, and his podcast is it's similar to mine in the sense that he's talking about what's going on with him personally, what's going on with him, in his career. And it's an opportunity to get to know my good friend and what's going on with him. Yeah, he's a great dude.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I do the Virzi Effect podcast. Comes out. I mean, this week I was obviously slacking with it and my Patreon people, so I got a bunch of work to do for the next couple of episodes coming out this week. So, but yeah, I do it every Thursday. It comes out, or sometimes Friday morning. It's called the Virzi Effect. It's on iTunes and Podbean, and you can go to my website, paulvirzi.com. Right now I need to add some dates, but the dates are kind of cleared up a little bit.
Yeah.
I have some time off here, and I'm going to just start going back to the drawing board after I take a little time off. But yeah, all those dates, and you'll see everything updated on paulvirzi.com. You can follow me on Twitter at paulvirzi. That's Virzi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for this. And I want to thank any of the Virzi Effect listeners who are listening to this particular episode. Feel free to stick around for other ones that are coming up. But thank you, Paul, for inviting me to your home to be a part of this, buddy. And
thanks for driving down, man, both of you guys.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I look forward to the special when it comes out. We'll talk again soon, pal.
Thanks, man.